maybe you're getting a notice. Anyway, so I'm really glad to see everybody here on a holiday. This is the last holiday you'll have to work on. You won't have to work on 4th of July. And really thankful to the Shine alumni who are here today. And they already introduced themselves by their names. And let's see, I started with Ashley last time and I ended with Sarah. So I think I'll go in the opposite order. And so I'll start with Sarah Burke and say, so we already know that you were in the environmental engineering lab. And I think what, you know, all these people have yet to experience Shine. So if you can remember what you were anticipating or wondering, and then how you look back on Shine now that it's been basically a year, well, maybe 10 and a half months since you finished, and how did it impact you over the year? So that's a lot of questions, and you only have about 5 minutes, so go with it where you can, okay?
Yeah, sure. So obviously my training experience is probably going to be pretty different than your guys's, but I'll just talk about my own. I'm a bit more of like an in-between kind of humanities. I like science classes a lot. Like obviously I'm taking math classes and chem and stuff and I enjoy it, but it's not necessarily like my main focus. I was like planning on going into it. So I definitely think even like applying for the program, I had the sense of like, well, am I like doing something wrong? Am I taking a spot from someone who's purely into science? And my mom encouraged me to apply. And I'm really glad I did that because I think by going into the environmental engineering program, I realized how much I really genuinely enjoy the science aspect of it, which I wasn't necessarily expecting. My logic going in was kind of like, well, I'm a high schooler. I'm not old enough to get a clearance to work with like a state senator. So let's see if I can do some science this summer and see if I enjoy it. But I actually came out of it like with a very, very genuine passion for environmental engineering. This summer, working with Professor Smith again was like the first thing I wanted to do. I was like, if he would have me back, which I'm glad he was, I was like, I'm definitely going to go back. I think what changed most for me was kind of removing science from like this very like theoretical like classroom component to like feeling like you're genuinely doing work to help people and to like change things, which is maybe a little bit unique in my opinion to environmental engineering, but I think also applies with all the other fields. Like for me, what I was doing felt very tangible and very important. The lab overall obviously is working to mitigate climate change, which is a humongous problem, but like the skill set I learned in a water filtration lab has allowed me to kind of understand the issues of water more globally. And as again, someone who's more of a humanities person, I really found that to be helpful because I think a lot of times there's a huge like intersection between what I was hearing a lot from my lab, like what the scientists knew was right, but then the policy just wasn't lining up. So it definitely inspired me to want to go, obviously this is in the future, but maybe major in some sort of environmental engineering policy mix and becoming an environmental lawyer specifically for water. You can ask like any of my teachers, but I've become kind of obsessed with water. I wrote my research paper about Israeli Palestinian water crisis in the 60s. I read a different one about Coca-Cola's actions in Rajasthan regarding water. So I've definitely gotten very into it. On terms of the program itself, I think one thing that really helped me is as an extrovert, I was a little bit worried, like, would I be able to like make friends? But I was really, really excited. All my friends in my lab and I in the environmental program, which was Pearson, Max, and Andrew, and also Elizabeth and some people from other departments, we all hung out. But I absolutely adored it. We had like, honestly, like Max and I both do debates. Like I'll see him at tournaments. We'll just like hang out the whole time. We're like friends. We have a group chat going on that I think is quite fun. So for me, having that like social aspect was really interesting. I think that's what's special about Shine. I think particularly for like my first introductory year to the lab, it prevented me from feeling like intimidated. I don't know. I have 5 minutes. I'm just kind of rambling, but I had a good experience. Also, whoever's working with Professor Smith this year is very lucky. He's a very incredible professor. And definitely another one of my concerns was as a woman, I think maybe that's why I went more to humanities, but I kind of got used to always feeling like on the outskirts, not even just that like people would like walk up to me and say I couldn't do STEM, although that has happened. When I was in 4th grade in my robotics team, they're like, we can't have a girl. She doesn't know how to use robots. I was like, okay. So it was fine. We had an all-girls team and we beat them, so it was cool. We went to state, they didn't, so it's fine. I'm still salty, that was 4th grade. But for me, my lab, I can't speak for other ones, but it was like probably majority woman, and like I would say maybe like majority people from different nations. My two PhD students, Yamrat was from Ethiopia and Ali was from Iran. I just like, it was such like a welcoming and lovely environment, which I definitely think is a huge credit to Professor McCurry and Professor Smith and all the other professors that run that lab, because I just like, not only did it like prevent me from having that feeling of being like an outsider, but it definitely made me feel like I belonged there. So I guess the main thing I'd say is I kind of had this like stereotype of what a scientist is. They have to be like super introverted. They have to be like purely into STEM. They like are probably a white male. And I think I realized that there are a lot of different versions of what a scientist looks like. So for me, it was very enjoyable to see like women like being feminine in a lab, and also guys, but also people from all walks of life just coming together, not because like they're like some stereotype of a mad scientist, but because I genuinely care about the work and the impacts on people and like wanting to fix things. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Achintya, you're up.
Okay, a lot of stuff to say, I guess, but I'll start off with the social aspect. Coming in, I really didn't know if whether I was gonna make any friends or not. So I did room with a couple of people, and in the beginning, I thought they were gonna be my only friends just because I wasn't sure what other people would be like. But after I like joined my lab, and then we had a couple of team lunch or like lab lunches, I guess, and then I met the rest of the cohort. Like the rest of the cohort, they're all like super inviting, I guess. It's really easy to find your friend group, and I'm pretty sure, and I don't really think last year like anyone really felt left out. Everyone found their like niche. I personally had my friends from my roommates. I had the people in my lab, and I also had a couple of other friends who I just met at the different cohort meetings, and I still talk to all of them to this day. And other than just the Shine students, the professors and the PhD students. So in my lab, my mentor, I'm super close with my mentor, and I still talk to him to this day. I was planning on coming to his graduation if Corona didn't cancel it, but now I don't know what's gonna happen. And also a couple of other people who are just in this lab, a couple of people who have graduated. And personally, getting to know them is one thing, but it's really nice to have someone who you can look up to and have as like a mentor or like a guide for the future, especially because for me, they've all taken like similar career paths, and now one of them's going to work in Northrop Grumman from like next month or something like that. So it's really nice to have someone like that who can help you or like guide you through your education and into the workforce. Second, definitely the actual research part. So coming in, I didn't have much experience related to aerospace. I always knew I wanted to do aerospace, but like I didn't have anything that was particularly specific to aerospace. So I was kind of freaking out when I got accepted because first of all, I didn't expect to get accepted, and second of all, I didn't know what I would be required to know, and I felt like I'm not going to be used to my PhD student because I don't know what he wants me to do. But that wasn't the case because like the first week or week and a half, he basically taught me and my lab partner like all the basics of everything that we needed to know for our lab, which was really helpful. And it just made me feel like I was actually wanted, I guess, because I was making a difference. Um, yeah, I think that's about it. Those are the main things. Like, make sure you take away as much as you can from your time here because it's a very unique experience. It's not something that you can find everywhere. A lot of schools have educational programs, but none of them are you actually doing research in their labs. So definitely make the most of it while you can. I know it's difficult with the whole coronavirus situation, but still try to do your best. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thanks so much. Sarah, Shintani, talk to us.
Yeah, so my Shine experience obviously is a little bit more different than Sarah's and Achintya's, but I still loved it so much. So I think that one of the main things I realized from Shine is that, well, I was in the chemical engineering lab, and I realized that, hey, maybe chemical engineering research is not something I want to pursue as a profession. But like, don't get me wrong, I'm still really glad that I figured this out this early in my life because, oh, especially like before I entered college, because now I can kind of go into that and know maybe I should go explore some other paths because can I really see myself here as a profession? Like, I'm not sure. Yeah, but overall, like the lessons and experiences I gained from this program is really incredible, and it's really applicable to basically like any field I can go into. Just learning how to like talk to people like in labs who I thought were scary, and being able to socialize and like getting a good work ethic, that was really valuable to me. Yeah, and similar to Achintya and Sarah, like I got really close to my professor and my lab mate, which was awesome. Not my professor, I'm sorry, my mentor. But yeah, I still talk to them today, and that was something really really valuable that I appreciated, getting like to get new friendships and meet new people who kind of shared the same interests that I had. Yes, that was something very, very important to me. And going into it, I guess I assumed that it would be really lab focused and that I would kind of only get to spend time with people in my lab. But I didn't realize how much like opportunities you have to interact with people in your cohorts. So yeah, I got to meet a lot of people outside my lab, not even like chemical engineering, just like aerospace and like environmental. Like I got to meet a bunch of different people from the different meetings that we had where we heard from other people's research and things like that. And yeah, overall, it's a really great experience, and I hope you're all excited because I'm excited for you guys.
Thanks. Oops, there's my timer. And we don't mind if you don't have a great experience, but so, right, you guys, we didn't pay you to say any of this, right? Okay, good.
No.
I'd take it.
I didn't hear that.
Well, I said you could. I'd probably take it, but.
Okay. I'm sure that people want to ask some questions. And what I'm going to suggest right now is if you want to, you can put something in chat, and I'm going to open it up to questions in a little bit. One of the things that I worry about in Shine, because I worry just as much as you guys worry. Like, I'm so glad to hear that you guys worried and it turned out to be fine. Nobody was mean. Nobody made fun of you because you didn't know something, and you're here to learn. So I hope that the Shine 20 cohort feels take a sigh of relief. Things are gonna go okay. The big difference though is COVID. And so we are gonna be doing things remotely. USC, we still don't know what's gonna happen in the fall yet. I know that they're going to try to get, especially in the experimental labs, people back in as quickly as possible. But that means social distancing. Like right now, they're removing lab equipment that's not essential so that everybody can be distanced. So I'm not really anticipating that by July 31st that Shine students are going to be in the labs. We will all meet on campus as soon as we can, and you will get to go to your lab. But I'm going to ask the alumni again, and I'm going to start off with Ashley, because she's been here. She can think about Shine from having done it, but also as a college student who's done remote and stuff like that. Any advice, or how do you think it's going to go with the Shine cohort being remote rather than together? And what is your advice to students to get over that remote barrier as quickly as possible?
I think the most important thing with the remote stuff is that you get as much out of it as you put into it. Like, it's really easy to just miss class because your professor's not there in front of you, or like miss a meeting or something. But in my lab, we do lab meetings, and it's really important to go to those lab meetings because it's like one of the only opportunities you have to actually have human contact and like actually get updates on what's happening in the lab. I don't know, I would suggest just go to everything they offer you, whether it's lab meetings or like just lab hangouts as well. I don't know how it's going to be for you all doing research on like virtually, but I hear good things about what the PhD students are planning. Also, I think it's a little less intimidating to do lab work virtually than in person, because when I first went to my lab, like the first thing that they mentioned to me was, oh yeah, that thing over there costs like $1 million. And so that's intimidating. But if you're not physically there, it's more of like just what they're telling you, and it's more focused on the knowledge rather than like the value of everything. I don't know. Anybody else want to take over?
Go ahead, anybody.
Well, it's definitely going to be a challenge, but to be honest, you're doing more than most kids, because unless you're doing like literally like 3 different fields, which are like CS, design, and business, you're not doing anything right now. Like I tried to search for engineering internships and literally no one's hiring. And I was met with about 30, sorry, due to COVID, we will not be moving forward with your application emails. So really, even though you're doing it virtually, you're still doing more than most kids. And definitely, it's going to be different than how Shine has run in the past, but I'm pretty sure it'll still be fine, just because I have faith in Katie, and I know she'll manage to figure something out.
Katie and Ashley and
And the
Erica
entire
and
Shine
Guzman.
team.
I always say, we are not here to recruit for USC. We're happy Achintya is going to Purdue and Sarah Shintani is going to Northeastern, but if you do come here, I will probably hire you. Do the Sarahs have any other advice about how to get over the COVID barrier?
This is maybe more specifically for me, but I definitely think like a really big aspect of Shine for me was my lab mates. Like Pearson, Max, Andrew, and I, like going out on the USC town and eating lunch was definitely a big aspect of the lab. And from a logical standpoint, I definitely think that that might be a little bit different this year. So I guess what my advice would be as an all-knowing fellow high schooler, I guess, is maybe just like have Zoom lunches. I think it's going to be harder to get to know people over virtual contact, so I think you just have to make a pretty conscious effort. And at first, it's probably going to be a little bit awkward, but I'd recommend putting in the time, because I think the relationships is kind of the main aspect of Shine. So both with like your PhD mentors and the other students in your lab, I'd recommend like meeting with them. Also maybe like leaving your room to do schoolwork, because I did about half of fourth quarter from bed, and once I got out, I definitely saw an increase in productivity.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to kind of add on to that, I really think it's important to put in a direct effort into fostering like relationships with your lab mates or with your entire cohort, like having Zoom lunches or something, because I know even though like mine was in person, I know that like having lunches with my lab mate, and sometimes after lab we would go to the library and do work together. Like those were some of the best times I had, where I actually got really close and got to have like these conversations that really helped grow our relationship. So just putting in a direct effort to, you know, calling someone or texting them to see if they want to do like work together. If you guys get lab work, I think that that could really help make this experience go a lot better for you.
Thanks you guys. I know I'm putting you on the spot. We're still working out right now how your day in Shine is going to be for the 2020 cohort, and every lab runs itself differently. I mean, the alumni could talk about that too. So I imagine that your day is going to be, maybe you're going to touch base with your mentor early in the day, and he or she might give you some things to do. For those of you who are wet lab people, like environmental, chem engineering, and biomed, we do have simulated experiments. All of you will probably be doing data analysis, which is a big part of research. You won't be on Zoom for hours at a time. It'll be a mixture of synchronous and asynchronous. You're going to be reading the peer-reviewed literature that your professor and PhD mentors put out. You're going to start that in week 1. You're going to learn about lab ethics and lab safety. Not all of you are paired together. That really is up to the PhD. It's up to the professor. He or she may not have 2 PhD students available that summer. So some of you may end up being by yourselves. So that means it's even more of a need to get to know each other. We'll do as much community building and bonding as we can. But I am really counting on you guys to start getting to know each other, which is why I gave you email addresses. Let me see. I would like to open it up and find out if anybody has any questions.
In the meantime, what if we share our favorite Shine memory? Does anyone have one right off the bat?
Well, you asked, Ashley.
Mine is so unrelated to Shine though, but my lab mate was Korean. His name is Brian Pyo. And I remember one day he was writing the Korean alphabet and I was like, oh, I know how to write the Korean alphabet. And it turns out that I knew how to write more letters or characters in Korean than he did. And it was just a fun time. We were in the lab. It was a slow day and we were just hanging out. That's my favorite Shine memory.
I have a lot because environmental engineering tends to get up to shenanigans. I think my personal favorite was Pearson wanted to go to the super far restaurant during our 45-minute lunch break. We're sprint walking there. It's 100 degrees. And then we decide instead of walking back, so we're not late, we're gonna all just pull an Uber. And then Max decides he is going to get a little scooter and scooter back. So we see our Uber is just driving along his scooter, he's scootering along. And we get back before then, and we hide, because we worked in Beagler Hall, which has this hallway. So we hide and we scared him. And he screamed like a little girl, and we beat him back, even though he's on his scooter. He was super close to us. We had to sprint though. So that's, again, not related to science, but that was quite enjoyable for me.
This is very eye-opening for me.
I personally had a lot. No, I can't really pick one. There were a lot of times after Shine when me, Sarah, and Alex would just hang out. That was pretty fun. Or else, honestly, the poster day, that was actually really fun. It might sound weird because you're talking to a bunch of people. I know a lot of people aren't into public speaking, but I personally am, and I found that was really fun. Other than that, the general lab lunches and cohort meeting stuff, those are always fun and something I used to look forward to.
Okay, thank you.
Unknown caller.
Yeah, just to kind of add on to that, like everyone said, there's so many good memories, but the one that comes to mind is actually the ice cream social that you organized. And because I was with my mentor and I went to go throw something away, and then my mentor and my lab partner, they both hid from me. And they hid in the bushes, so I didn't know where they went, and I was freaking out because I was all alone and I was so scared to talk to anybody else. So yeah, they were in the bushes and I got really nervous, and then they popped out and scared me. And that's just something I remember really vividly. And then yeah, also my mentor would make me sing this one song, Panda. I don't know if you guys know that, and she would record me singing it and jumping around looking stupid. It was just so fun. Yeah, just kind of have that personal relationship with my mentor. So
So I see jumping out from behind something is a big theme for Shine. Okay. Go ahead. Who was talking?
Oh, I was just gonna say that it's good to remember that it's also summer. Even though you're still doing research and working, it's summer. So have some fun.
It's so different from school, right? It's nothing like school.
You might be intimidated right now, or okay, I can't really speak for you because you guys are at home, but once you start actually doing research and stuff, it gets really fun. I know almost all of my friends used to look forward to it, and it's really exciting, honestly.
What makes it exciting? That's what I'd like to ask. What makes it exciting?
Uh, do I go first?
Go,
Okay,
yeah,
I'm,
go
I'm
ahead.
just gonna go first. Personally, I'm a very, very curious person. So research is, so there are a lot of different ways you can think of research, but to me, research is trying to find a new answer or a new method to do something, either completely different from what's already being done or something that's existing to make it more efficient. And personally, just like being able to work on something that might be able to change the future or would be revolutionary was really exciting to me.
Yeah, I kind of had the same thing. Like environmental engineering is a field where it's like very easy to see the direct applications of it. So like I was just super inspired to like go into lab and do my work. And also specifically, I was working on like a little bioreactor setup where all my tests was based off of. So that thing was literally like my child. We called it my child in the lab. Like Pearson and I did like a photo shoot with my bioreactor. We were fans of the bioreactor. So like on one end, I knew I was like helping out for a greater cause of like mitigating climate change and making clean water more accessible and also just general public health. But I also just like genuinely enjoyed the work. Like it was fun, which I wasn't expecting. I thought it'd be something I'd do because like for the greater good. But like I enjoyed just like sitting there like pipetting rows. I had a blast. Except for there's one time I had to work with a super expensive reagent and I thought I was like if I sneezed, it'd be like $15 each time I like messed up a little bit. So I was just like, scary. But overall, I think it's just a fun experience. Yeah.
I agree. I think the labs that are chosen for Shine are just perfect. Like my lab was Professor Matarek's interaction lab. It was super intimidating before I even started because one, I didn't know much about research, and two, like I knew that she had met Obama, so I knew that she was like a super important person, and it was just really intimidating because I didn't know anything about robotics other than like first robotics competition. Um, but once I learned what my project was, it was a socially assistive robot for children with autism. Like I thought that was super cool. Like it's a robot that helps little kids with autism. And so even though I was super intimidated and I didn't know anything, like that was like an amazing cause. And I fell in love with my project. And so that just inspired me to do whatever it took to help or to just, yeah, help this project. Yeah.
Do you guys have to do a lot of homework, or when you didn't know something, how did you learn it?
I'm just like a straight up, not perfectionist, but like I do debate. So like reading research articles was like my thing. Like I'd be back like 3 years ago, I'd be up at like 2 a.m. looking through like some articles. Like when I applied to Shine, I think the reason why I got it because my literal like little thing was like I love reading research papers. I do it every Friday. Like I want to learn. So like having talked that much about research papers, when I got assigned my first one, I probably put in like a lot more time than I had to. Like I went through like I have to understand every little thing, I have to know everything. But I think what I realized is like they're very understanding of the fact that like you are a high schooler. Like they don't expect you to be an expert in your field. And I think once I kind of like let go of that, it was a lot better because I think the best thing to know is like obviously by the end of the summer you should come out knowing your field very well. But like your professor has been in that for probably decades, a decade or longer, right? And they still don't know everything in the field. So I think the best thing to do is just to recognize that if you can get good at your specific like experimental procedure, you don't have to be an expert in all of environmental engineering or all of aerospace. And like your PhD students will help you when it like is necessary. So I guess what I'd say is like kind of break it down and like there will be stuff you have to do outside of it, but don't like pressure yourselves to like feel like you have to be like as knowledgeable or as good as a PhD students. Like these are very smart people who have dedicated years and years of time into it. Like if you got it as fast as they did, like it probably says something about the kind of people who are applying to USC. And so like, I'm as someone who thinks they're pretty smart, I do not want to be as good as them as like a high schooler. So like don't hold yourself to too high of a standard and like recognize that it's okay to not know everything.
Yeah, I think it's not necessary to, like Sarah said, not to be a professional in everything that they want you to be. Like I didn't know Python when I went into the lab, and part of the robot was using Python, but I think the most important thing is that you learn how to self-learn, because I think in research, like being in college now, most of the stuff that you do in research isn't taught in classes. A lot of it, like machine learning and like other stuff like that, there's a lot of research that you have to do on your own and self-learning. So I think Shine gives you a good opportunity to learn how to do that, not necessarily meaning that you have to learn all of Python in like 7 weeks, but it just shows you how to go out and like learn something when you need to learn it in the future.
Like I said before, I didn't really know what I was expected to know for my lab. And so the first week was basically my PhD mentor and two other PhD mentors who also did Shine. So like a group of 5 students and 3 PhD mentors. They just taught us like the basics of aerodynamics and some physics concepts that we needed to know for our lab. And I think that's the biggest stuff that I like did for the project. Like I obviously did a lot of research on, okay, not research, but like I obviously looked into a lot of stuff on my own time. Like I used, like me and my PhD mentor, we are both into planes and stuff. So one time we went plane watching. That was really cool. But so we used to talk a lot about planes and stuff. For example, I asked him once about why we couldn't use solar powered, like planes with solar panels on them. And he said, no, you can use them. It's just that they're not as efficient as, sorry, they're not as efficient as other forms of propulsion or other forms of energy. So it's more like what you put into it. It's like if you want to do it, you will do it. The homework that Shine gives you isn't really that much. There's maybe like 1 assignment, 2 assignments that they have you do, but those are like basic stuff which you should be knowing. Like we had to do a annotated bibliography and also read our research or our post professors research papers, I think. And so those are like stuff that you'll need to know. So basically they're not really giving you homework. It's more stuff that you should be doing by yourself, but they're just making you do it because you probably wouldn't know that you're supposed to do that.
You guys, it's 15 minutes to 6. We're going to end at 6. So if you want to ask any questions, this is a great time to do it. It's a great time to be the first person to speak out.
Any questions? We're all kids still.
I have a question.
Thank you, Alan.
So I was just wondering, just overall from your experience in Shine, what would you say was like the most useful or best thing you've learned in general there?
Like for me, I'd say Shine has had the impact where it definitely gave me like a very focused view on like what I want to do with my life. Which like obviously I'm not pretending that at 16 I know like exactly what my career path is going to be. But like I have a lot of interests that for me seemed kind of like antithetical. Like I like writing and I like debate, but I also like science and maths. Like how can I combine those things and not kind of like abandon half of my interests? So what Shine really taught for me is that that all those things could kind of come together in a way that was helpful. So for me in the lab, I found it very interesting to hear like all of the PhD students, professors talking about how there are a lot of things that in the industry and within academia was like very obvious that should be going on, but just like wasn't happening. So like for people in environmental engineering, like how water was being like chlorinated just wasn't a good idea, but it just happened, like stuff like that. And so it definitely inspired me to be a little bit more of that like in between of both understanding the scientific world and also while being in the policy world kind of do that. So I mean the other Sarah probably had a similar experience, just like in the opposite way. I think having experience in like a career path kind of lets you know if it is or isn't for you and kind of helps you see a place for yourself in that. So I definitely credit Shine with kind of renewing my interest in science. I probably before I would have like just focused on like, I like debate. I guess I can't like science too. I'll just have to become a lawyer. But like I found a way to kind of combine my interests, which I'm really thankful for.
Personally for me, obviously I learned like the hard skills that you learn in research, I guess. I learned MATLAB, how to use Engage, how to plot lots of different types of data, and then obviously like physics, aerodynamics, all that basic stuff. But other than that, I think the biggest takeaway I had from Shine outside of like my actual like the skills I learned was kind of what I wanted to do. So coming into Shine last summer, I knew I was interested in aerospace, but I didn't really know which part of aerospace I wanted to go into, because obviously there are different fields in aerospace too. For example, like systems, aerodynamics, propulsion, control and dynamics, etc. So after doing Shine, I kind of realized that propulsion was the path I wanted to go on, and that kind of helped me to realize how, or like the stuff that I want to do throughout the next 4 years of college. Because for a lot of people, they don't realize what they want to do, much less realize what they want to do in a specific field. So just being able to realize that I want to do something within aerospace is already giving me a head start in college, because I know, okay, I'm not going to say I know exactly what I want to do, but I have like a general idea of like the clubs I want to do, or like the research labs that I want to join and stuff like that.
And Sarah,
Oh,
well,
go ahead.
Sarah Shintani, I always say this: if you come to Shine and you learn that you don't want to do what you were doing, that is a great summer. And I'm glad that you have no regrets about it. Is there anything else you want to say about that?
Yeah, like I'm really glad I got this experience because, I was like a senior applying to colleges and I was thinking, okay, I want to go in this field of like the science. And then, I got this actual experience and I got to learn pretty early in my life that this is probably not something I could see myself doing as a profession, which is super great because I might have gone through this path in college where I was taking like these academic courses without actually getting hands-on experience and still thinking that this is something I want to do. Whereas actually like getting to be in that lab and getting to work with someone who, like loves doing what they do in the lab, that was a really priceless experience for me to kind of, like understand the ins and outs of like what's happening on a day-to-day with them. So that was really great. But overall, I think that something that will really stick with me is like the soft skills I learned, which my mentor really helped me with, like knowing how to talk about your research in a layperson way and not trying to just sound smart and using a bunch of big words, but actually trying to explain something that's complicated but easy for you to understand to somebody else that knows nothing about it. And other things like knowing how to figure out your own problems. Like if you don't understand something, like being able to research and figure it out and try to figure it out on your own. Yeah, just gaining like a new sense of independence was something I definitely gained from this experience. So yeah.
I was going to ask, how do you think you guys have been able to apply what you learned just throughout?
I can go first, I guess. So for me, definitely college apps is where I put that. But outside of college apps, the only place I've really used it is to show my experience for like internships and like jobs, I guess, which didn't really. Okay, so I did end up getting like a project with NASA, so it kind of worked, I guess. But yeah, just a little bit. So showing that you have the experience in the field, and also being able to show something tangible, like for example your research poster, which you're gonna make at the end of like your 7 weeks, or that's definitely one thing you want to showcase, because that really shows how much knowledge and everything you've taken away from like the past, I don't know how long it is, but like however many weeks you do this program. um yeah, other than that, I also learned MATLAB, and MATLAB's really useful for engineers at least. So I use MATLAB sometimes. Yeah. So mostly like experience and some basic knowledge of physics, aerodynamics that I learned from my lab and MATLAB.
Yeah.
And we will teach MATLAB again. So a lot of different fields use MATLAB, a data visualization software. Okay, who did I interrupt?
I interrupted at school. Yeah, so I definitely think I learned a lot. Like the first and probably like most obvious one is I took AP chemistry this year, so like having had experience in a lab helped me a lot with the lab procedure and like just kind of knowing how to do things precisely. I think I was probably being a little annoying. Like I wanted to like look at the burettes, make sure everything was perfect. Like it wasn't necessarily that like I came in like knowing how to do titrations and every single tiny little thing, because I was working in a pretty like narrow field that was probably too much in depth for like an AP chemistry course. But I think it more so just like inspired me to really focus and learn a lot, because like it felt like, well, I'm not just doing well on this citation test so that I can get a good grade, which was like kind of abstract and feels almost a little bit like, but I was doing it so that I could help get carcinogens out of water, which like feels very tangible and something that's helping others instead of just myself. So it definitely motivated me to like really put my all into AP chemistry. And probably oddly, it helped me a ton for my history class. My history teacher this year is like notoriously like impossible, like has like a D average for his history paper grades. So going into it, I was like a little worried. And then I ended up like writing my paper on the Arab-Israeli water crisis. And like I kind of knew water like really, really well because I'd spent my entire summer researching it. And like I knew how to read scholarly articles really well. So I went very in depth. I had honestly a blast writing it, which sounds very nerdy, but like I learned a lot about the Arab League in the 1960s. So call me if you have any questions on that. But like, yeah, and I got a decent grade, and I know that's kind of a silly thing to say, like, oh, my summer lab internship helped me with my history paper, but like, honestly, it was helpful. Like the scholarly knowledge helped me writing that paper. So yeah.
Sounds really valuable, yeah.
So for me, my school actually like offers a research course. Yeah, so I took that in my junior year, and then I did Shine over the summer, and then I took it again in my senior year to continue my research. So this was actually like really applicable to me. Like even though I wasn't doing research related to what I did at Shine, I still like the skills I learned in like knowing procedures and knowing that you need to know, because like what my mentor really emphasized is that with your procedures, you need to know like why you're doing everything, like what's the purpose of using this instead of this, and what's the point of each step. So then when I actually went into my research course and was conducting my own project, I really like started thinking more about, okay, like why am I using this procedure, and like how will this help me move my research? And then I noticed a big difference from doing it in my junior year in comparison to my senior year, especially because of like what I learned over the summer. And yeah, and even though I didn't really get to finish like what I was planning because of COVID, still just like overall getting that new experience and having a different mindset going into creating my project was very, very helpful. So.
All right, we have time for one more question if somebody wants to ask.
I had like a very specific question. I don't know if that's okay, but it's kind of like for robotics. It was for Ashley. I was just like wondering, like what was the coolest thing that like you learned, or like the biggest learning moment when you like were doing your research?
I think, I mean, you can learn like programming anywhere and all of that stuff, but the thing that I most valued from Interaction Lab was the fact that it was like Professor Matarik coined this phrase of socially assisted robotics, and just the fact that you can do robotics with so many different things, and you can even mix it with like psychology and stuff like that. And then so I learned that I really love robotics when it comes hand in hand with helping people with disabilities. So I think that was probably like the biggest moment for me, was knowing that I can do not robotics to do something cool like build a car or something, but like help human beings.
Okay, thank you.
All right, well, we do want to have another panel. I realize we have I have to have somebody from electrical engineering up so that you guys can hear about that. Yes, Brandon. It'd be nice to have one for the parents. So Ashley's helping me put these together. You're going to hear more and more from me. We've got basically 3 weeks from today, Shine starts. So we're all busy putting things together. One thing I want to say is that this is the 6th year of Shine. The PhD mentors who, well, they want to come back. Like they sign up for this every year. There's a few new ones because we have people like Yamrat, who's just got her dissertation, just finished her dissertation and she graduated. So sometimes they graduate. Sometimes we get a new professor. So like Professor Nguyen is new, and so he's got a new graduate student. But basically, the professors and the mentors really like Shine. That's why they welcome you in. They have a really good idea of what to expect of high school students. They want you to like this, right? Because they like it. They love it. They're spending their lives on this pathway. They don't mind if you don't want to spend your life on that pathway, but they do find research to be creative, satisfying, a means of self-expression, a means of being part of a community that's doing something to help people. And so hopefully that's what all of these alumni have experienced, and that is my hope for you for the summer, is that you have that same experience too. So I would love you to help me thank Sarah, Achintya, and Ashley for taking time on Memorial Day. I thank you for coming. A couple of housekeeping things. We did have this sort of last minute opportunity from Unite LA to participate in an online program that helps you build soft skills. So if you want to be part of that, we need to know by tomorrow. If you don't know what I'm talking about and you can't find it in an old email, then email me at k12stem1@usc.edu. Put it in the chat. Ashley, tell us why you put the doodle poll in the chat.
All right, so that is so you can help us set a date for the second student panel. Yeah, we're just gonna try to make it when all of you are available. And then I'll send one out for the parents soon.
And you will learn a lot of soft skills. Yeah, I remember Sarah Shintani. She wanted to explain things in such detail and would like it would take a PhD to understand what she was saying. But then how do you talk to people about the impact of this research that you're doing? Sarah, you're helping to cure cancer, right? So I just want you to know, I want my alumni to know that I really care for each of you. You know, I used to be a professor. I don't get to work with students that much anymore, but Shine is the time that I really get to, sort of. You can see I don't get to work with you all that much. But I really do love to see how the Shine students develop, where they go. I hope you guys always stay in touch with me. I'm looking forward to getting to know all of you also. So it's 6 o'clock. Let's go have a barbecue or whatever we're doing on Memorial Day. All right. I'm going to stay on. Everybody else can leave, or if you didn't ask a question that you wanted to or something like that. But Sarah, Shintani, great to see you. Sarah, Burke, I look forward to seeing you again. Achintya, oh man, I want to get us flying again on some very non-carbon footprint way, okay?
Yeah,
And
that's the
Ashley,
future.
I get to see you soon. So, all right, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks so
Bye,
much.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Yee. Okay, Ashley, that went great.
Bye.
Okay, I'm glad we recorded it. I guess I have to stop recording.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right.